The old woman's hands trembled as she reached for Ngozi's face in the darkness. "Child," she whispered, her voice suddenly clear, sharp, knowing. "They think I don't remember. They think I don't see. But I remember everything. And what you have done for me, heaven has already marked it in gold." Ngozi froze, her heart pounding. For 6 months, she had believed Madam Chidinma's mother was lost to the fog of Alzheimer's, a shell of a person trapped in confusion. But now, those ancient eyes gleamed with an awareness that made the hair on Ngozi's arm stand up. This was no confused old woman. This was someone who had been watching, listening, waiting. "They will come for you soon," the old woman continued, gripping Ngozi's wrist with surprising strength. "The one I sent for. My son. He will change everything. But you must be ready. Are you ready, child?" Before Ngozi could answer, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Madam Chidinma's sharp voice cut through the night. "Ngozi. Where are you? Why is my mother's door open?" The old woman's eyes suddenly went vacant again, her grip loosening. She began to hum an old Igbo lullaby, rocking back and forth as if nothing had happened. But Ngozi knew better now. Something was coming. Something that would either save her or destroy her completely. And it all began 3 months earlier, on the day she first knocked on the tall iron gates of number 47, Banana Island, Victoria Island, Lagos. The harmattan wind carried dust through the streets of Lagos that December morning when Ngozi first arrived at the mansion. She clutched her small bag tightly, her fingers white against the worn fabric. Inside were 3 changes of clothes, a photograph of her parents, and a rosary her mother had pressed into her hands before the illness took her. The iron gates were so tall they seemed to touch the clouds. Beyond them, she could see a white mansion with marble pillars, a fountain in the courtyard, and luxury cars parked like sleeping beasts in the driveway. This was not her world. Ngozi came from Abia State, from a village where roads turned to red mud when it rained, where her father had been a palm wine tapper and her mother had sold vegetables in the market. But her parents were gone now. Buried side by side under the Eudora tree behind their compound. And her 3 younger siblings, Chokuma, Adis, and little Obayoma, depended on her. The responsibility sat on her shoulders like a mountain. She pressed the bell. A security man appeared, looking her up and down with casual contempt. "Yes. What do you want?" "Good morning, sir. I'm Ngozi Okofo. Madam Chidinma sent for me. For the housemaid position." He sucked his teeth. "Wait here." 20 minutes passed. The sun climbed higher. Sweat began to trickle down her back. Finally, the gate opened, and she was led not through the front entrance but around the side, through a narrow path that led to the boys' quarters. "Madam said you should wait in the kitchen," the security man said, then disappeared. The kitchen was enormous, with gleaming countertops and appliances Ngozi had only seen on television. She stood awkwardly by the door, afraid to touch anything. Another 30 minutes passed before a woman swept in, her high heels clicking against the tiles like gunshots. Madam Chidinma was beautiful in the way Lagos women of wealth often are. Her skin glowed like polished bronze, her Brazilian hair fell in perfect waves down her back, her nails were the color of fresh blood. She wore a white lace blouse and designer jeans that probably cost more than Ngozi's entire village would see in a year. She looked at Ngozi the way one might look at a stray dog. "So you're the girl from the agency?" "Yes, Ma." Ngozi bowed slightly, as she had been taught. "How old are you?" 22, Ma. "Education?" "I finished secondary school, Ma. I scored well in my WAC, but there was no money for university." Madam Chidinma's lip curled slightly. Of course there wasn't. She walked around Ngozi slowly, inspecting her. "You're thin. Can you cook?" "Yes, Ma. I can cook very well." "Clean?" "Yes, Ma. Take care of elderly people." Ngozi hesitated. I took care of my mother before she died, Ma. She was very sick for 2 years." Something flickered across Madam Chidinma's face, not sympathy, but calculation. "Good. My mother is living with us now. she has Alzheimer's. She can't remember anything, sometimes she doesn't even know where she is. She needs someone to bathe her, feed her, make sure she doesn't wander off. I can do that, Ma. The salary is 30,000 naira per month. You'll get 1 day off every 2 weeks. You sleep in the room next to my mother's in case she needs anything at night. You eat after everyone else has eaten. You don't touch my things, you don't gossip with the other staff, and you don't make phone calls during work hours. Understood. 30,000 naira. Ngozi's heart sank. The agency had promised 45,000. But what choice did she have? Her siblings needed school fees. Chukwuma's uniform was torn. Adis needed books. Little Obayoma was living with their aunt who complained daily about the burden. Yes, Ma. I understand. Good. Start today. Rose will show you where everything is. Rose was the cook, a plump woman from Delta State with kind eyes and a tired smile. She showed Ngozi to her room, a tiny space barely bigger than a storage closet, with a narrow bed, a small wardrobe, and a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Sorry, my dear, Rose whispered as they stood in the doorway. This madam, she's not easy. Her husband spoils her rotten, and she treats us like we're not human beings. Just keep your head down and do your work. Don't give her any reason to shout at you. Thank you, Auntie. Come, let me show you Mama's room. They walked down a corridor lined with expensive artwork and family photographs. At the end was a door painted soft blue. Rose knocked gently before opening it. The room was large but somehow sad. Heavy curtains blocked most of the sunlight. In the center was a hospital-style bed, and in that bed sat an old woman, so small she seemed to have shrunk into herself. Her hair was completely white, braided neatly into 2 cornrows. Her eyes stared at nothing. Mama, good afternoon, Rose said loudly, as if speaking to a child. This is Ngozi. She's going to be taking care of you from now on. The old woman didn't respond. She just continued staring at the wall, her hands folded in her lap. Rose sighed. Sometimes she's like this. Other times she talks, but it's all confused. She'll call you by her sister's name or ask for her husband who died 20 years ago. Just be patient with her. Make sure she eats. Madam doesn't like it when Mama refuses to eat. That first day, Ngozi learned the harsh rhythm of her new life. She woke at 5 a.m. to prepare Mama's bath. The old woman resisted at first, pushing weakly at Ngozi's hands, mumbling words in Igbo that Ngozi couldn't quite understand. But Ngozi was gentle, singing softly as she washed Mama's thin arms, careful around the bruises that seemed to appear from nowhere. Breakfast was another battle. Mama would turn her head away from the spoon, pressing her lips shut like a stubborn child. Mama, please, Ngozi whispered. Just a little. You need to eat. But Mama wouldn't eat. Not until Ngozi began to tell her a story, something her own mother used to do when Ngozi was little and refused her medicine. There was once a beautiful woman named Adiku, Ngozi began softly, who could dance better than anyone in 7 villages. When she danced, even the birds would stop singing to watch. Mama's eyes flickered. She looked at Ngozi, really looked at her, for the first time. And slowly, she opened her mouth for the spoon. By the end of the first month, Ngozi understood the true nature of her situation. She was not employed. She was trapped. Madam Chidinma was cruel in small, calculated ways. When Ngozi asked about her salary on the 5th of January, Madam handed her an envelope containing only 15,000 naira. Where's the rest, Ma? Ngozi asked carefully. Rest. What rest? You said 30,000, Ma? Madam Chidinma's eyes went cold. Did I? Well, I'm deducting 15,000 for your accommodation, food, and electricity. You're living in my house, eating my food, using my water. Did you think that was free? But Ma, are you arguing with me? Do you know how many girls would be grateful for this opportunity? If you're not happy, you can leave. Right now. Ngozi's throat tightened. Leave and go where? Back to the village with nothing. How would she explain to Chokuma why she couldn't pay his school fees? How would she face Adiz when the girl asked for her textbooks? No, Ma. I'm sorry, Ma. Good. Now go. Mama needs her bath. 15,000 naira. After sending money home for her siblings, Ngozi had barely 2,000 left for herself. She began to ration even soap, using the smallest amount possible to make it last. The food was worse. Every morning, Madam Chidinma's family ate like kings: fresh bread, eggs, sausages, fruit salad, tea, and orange juice. Ngozi would serve them, her stomach growling quietly as the aroma filled the dining room. The family barely looked at her as she moved around the table, pouring juice, refilling plates. Only after everyone had finished, after the plates had been cleared and washed, was Ngozi allowed to eat. By then, the food was cold, and there was never much left. Usually just some congealed stew and a few pieces of hardened yam. Rose would sometimes sneak her an extra piece of meat when no one was looking, whispering, "Eat fast before Madam sees." But it was never enough. Ngozi began to lose weight. Her uniform hung looser. Her cheeks hollowed. At night, lying in her narrow bed, she would press her hand against her stomach and pray for morning to come so she could distract herself with work. The disrespect cut deeper than the hunger. Madam Chidinma never called her by name. It was always "you" or "girl" or sometimes just a sharp snap of the fingers. When guests visited, Ngozi was invisible, except when something was needed, and then she was expected to appear instantly, like a jinn summoned from a lamp. Once, when one of Madam's friends spilled red wine on the white carpet, Madam slapped Ngozi across the face. "Why didn't you see it was about to spill? Are you blind? Now clean it up." Ngozi's cheek burned, but she said nothing. She got on her hands and knees and scrubbed the wine stain while Madam's friends laughed about something else, already forgetting the incident. But the person who suffered most was Mama. The old woman was treated like a burden, an embarrassment. When Madam's friends visited, Mama was kept in her room with the door closed. "Nobody wants to see a confused old woman drooling," Madam would say. "It's depressing." Madam's husband, Chief Felix, was rarely home. He traveled constantly for business, and when he was in Lagos, he spent his time at the office or his club. The few times Ngozi saw him, he seemed like a ghost in his own house, present but not really there, his eyes always on his phone, his mind elsewhere. Their 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, aged 12, 9, and 7, had been sent to boarding school in England. The house that could have been filled with laughter echoed instead with emptiness and Madam's sharp commands. Only Ngozi and Mama spent any real time together. And slowly, something unexpected began to grow between them. It started with the stories. Ngozi discovered that stories were the key to reaching Mama through the fog of her illness. When Ngozi told stories while feeding her, Mama would eat. When Ngozi told stories while bathing her, Mama would relax, her muscles unclenching from their perpetual tension. So Ngozi told her everything. Folk tales she had learned from her own mother. Stories about the tortoise and his clever schemes. About the beautiful maiden who married a spirit. About the hunter who learned that kindness to animals could save his life. And sometimes, in the middle of a story, Mama would speak. "I know that one," she'd say, her voice suddenly clear. "My grandmother told me that story." But in her version, the tortoise wasn't punished. He became the king's advisor. Ngozi would freeze, startled by the lucidity. "You remember your grandmother, Mama?" But then the fog would return. Mama's eyes would go distant again, and she'd start humming, and the moment would be lost. Still, those moments became precious to Ngozi. They were proof that Mama was still in there somewhere, trapped inside a prison of failing memory but not completely gone. Ngozi began to do more than just the required tasks. She started brushing Mama's hair gently every evening, working out the tangos with patient fingers while singing old Igbo hymns. She would massage Mama's feet with shea butter, knowing how the old woman's joints act from staying in bed too long. She would open the curtains during the day, letting sunlight stream in, because she noticed Mama's mood improved when she could see the sky. Most importantly, Ngozi talked to her. Not at her, like she was a child or an object, but to her, like she was a person who still mattered. "Mama, you know what happened today?" Ngozi would say while helping her into a chair. "Rose tried to fry plantain and almost burned the kitchen down. The smoke was so thick, we thought the house was on fire." And sometimes, Mama would smile. A small smile, barely there, but real. Or, "Mama, I sent money to my sister Adis today. She's going to buy books for school. She's very clever, that one. Top of her class. I think she's going to be a doctor one day." Mama would nod, as if she understood the pride in Ngozi's voice. Ngozi would tell Mama about the garden outside her window, describing the flowers that bloomed, the butterflies that visited, the fat lizard that sunbathed on the wall every afternoon. She described the world to Mama because Mama could no longer fully be in it. One evening, after bathing Mama and dressing her in a clean nightgown, Ngozi was combing her hair when the old woman suddenly reached up and touched Ngozi's face. "You're a good girl," Mama whispered. "Not like the others. They look at me and see a burden. You look at me and see a person." Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. "You are a person, Mama. You're still here." "Sometimes," Mama said, and then she laughed, a sound so unexpected that Ngozi laughed too, and for a moment the sad room felt a little less heavy. But these moments were rare. Most days, Mama was lost in her confusion, calling Ngozi by different names, Adeabi, Obiajili, sometimes just, girl with kind eyes. She would ask for people who were dead, or cry suddenly for no reason Ngozi could understand. And Madam Chidinma never came to visit. Not once. She would send Ngozi to check on her mother, but she herself never entered that blue door. It was as if Mama had already died, and they were all just waiting for the formality of burial. "How is she?" Madam would ask from the doorway, not bothering to step inside. "She's fine, Ma. She ate all her breakfast today." "Good. Make sure she doesn't wander. I don't want her embarrassing us in front of the neighbors." Once, Ngozi gathered the courage to ask, "Ma, would you like to sit with Mama for a little while?" "I think she would be happy to." "I don't have time for that," Madam snapped. "I have a charity gala to plan. The wives of millionaires don't organize themselves, you know. Just do your job." Ngozi nodded and said nothing more. But in her heart, she felt a sadness that had nothing to do with her own suffering. How could a daughter treat her own mother this way? How could anyone look at Mama's gentle face and see only burden? Sometimes at night, Ngozi would pray. Not the desperate prayers of her first weeks, when she begged God to change Madam's heart or increase her salary. Now she prayed differently. "God, I don't understand why I'm here. I don't understand why Mama has to suffer like this, forgotten by her own family. But if there's a reason, if there's something I'm supposed to learn or do, please help me see it. And please, let Mama know she's not alone. Even if she forgets everything else, let her remember that someone cared." What Ngozi didn't know was that her prayers were being heard. And they were being answered in ways she couldn't possibly imagine. It happened on a Saturday afternoon in March. The rains had started again, turning Lagos into a waterlogged maze. Ngozi was in Mama's room, reading to her from an old Igbo Bible sheet found in the house, when Rose knocked urgently on the door. "Ngozi, come quick. Madam wants you in the living room right now." Ngozi's heart sank. What had she done wrong now? She quickly settled Mama in her chair, made sure she was comfortable, and hurried to the living room. Madam Chidinma stood near the window, her arms crossed, her face tight with barely contained irritation. But what caught Ngozi's attention was the man standing in the center of the room. He was tall, so tall he seemed to fill the entire space. He wore a dark blue agbada embroidered with gold thread that caught the light with every movement. His face was strong-featured, almost severe, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to explain yourself to anyone. But his eyes were kind. They reminded Ngozi of her father's eyes, sharp but gentle. "Ngozi," Madam Chidinma said through gritted teeth, "this is my brother, Chief Emeka Okonkwo. He's come to visit Mama." "Brother." Ngozi had no idea Mama had another child. In 6 months, Madam had never mentioned a brother. Chief Emeka nodded to her. Good afternoon. You're the one taking care of my mother? Yes, sir. For how long? 6 months, sir. And how is she? Ngozi glanced at Madam Chidinma, uncertain. Madam's face was stone. She has good days and difficult days, sir. But she's doing okay. Would you like to see her? That's why I'm here. As they walked toward Momo's room, Madam Chidinma following behind them with obvious displeasure, Chief Emeka spoke quietly to Ngozi. Does my mother recognize anyone? Sometimes, sir. She remembers things from long ago more than recent things. She talks about her grandmother a lot. And she hums old songs. Does she ask for anyone? Ngozi hesitated. The truth was, Mama sometimes called out for Emeka, but she did it in such a confused way that Ngozi had never been sure if it was this man she meant or someone else from her past. She says many names, sir. Sometimes I don't know who she means. They reached the blue door. Ngozi opened it gently. Mama, you have a visitor. Mama sat in her chair by the window, staring out at the rain. She didn't turn when they entered. Chief Emeka stood frozen in the doorway. For a long moment, he just looked at his mother, and Ngozi saw his jaw tighten, his hands curled into fists at his sides. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. Mama. The old woman's head turned slowly. She looked at him blankly at first. Then something flickered in her eyes, recognition, confusion, both at once. Emeka, she whispered. Yes, Mama. It's me. Mama's face crumpled. Emeka. My son. Where have you been? I've been waiting so long. They told me you were dead. No, Mama. I'm not dead. I'm here now. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and fell to his knees beside her chair. He took her hands in his, and Ngozi saw that his hands were shaking. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I haven't visited. Work has been. I've been. He trailed off, unable to finish the excuse. How do you explain to your dying mother that you were too busy making money to come see her? Mama touched his face with trembling fingers. You look old, Emeka. When did you become so old? I'm 53 now, Mama. 53. She laughed, a high, confused sound. No. You're just a boy. The fog returned. Her eyes went distant again. She pulled her hands away and began humming one of her songs. Chief Emeka remained kneeling there for a long time, his head bowed, his shoulders shaking slightly. Madam Chidinma stood near the door, her face unreadable. Finally, Chief Emeka stood up. He wiped his eyes quickly and turned to Ngozi. You? Come outside with me. In the hallway, he closed the door behind them and studied Ngozi carefully. Tell me the truth. How is she really being treated? Ngozi's mouth went dry. She looked at Madam Chidinma, who was watching her with eyes like knives. She's fine, sir. I'm not asking if she's fine. I'm asking how she's treated. The silence stretched out. Ngozi could feel her heart pounding against her ribs. If she told the truth, Madam would make her life unbearable. But if she lied, before she could answer, Mama's voice called out from inside the room, surprisingly clear, the girl with kind eyes. Where is the girl with kind eyes? Chief Emeka pushed the door open. Mama was agitated now, looking around the room. Where is she? The one who tells me stories. The one who doesn't hurt me when she baits me. Chief Emeka looked at Ngozi. That's you. Yes, sir. He turned back to Mama. She's right here, Mama. Ngozi is right here. Ngozi, Mama repeated, tasting the name. Yes. Ngozi. She's good. Not like the others. The others want me to die faster. But not Ngozi. Ngozi makes me remember I'm still alive. Chief Emeka's face had gone very still.
That's you.
He looked at his sister.
Sir.
What does she mean, not like the others?
She's right here.
Madam Chidinma's face flushed.
Ngozi is right here.
Mama is confused.
Ngozi. Mama
She doesn't know what she's saying. She seems pretty clear to me right now.
Ngozi.
She has Alzheimer's, Emeka.
Not like the others.
1 minute she's lucid, the next she's calling for Papa who died 20 years ago.
But not Ngozi.
You can't trust anything she says.
Remember, I'm still alive.
Chief Emeka looked at Ngozi again.
Face had gone very still.
Stay with my mother.
He looked at his sister.
I need to speak with my sister.
What does she mean? Not
Privately.
like the others.
They left the room.
Madam Chidinma's face
Ngozi could hear their voices in the
Mama is
hallway,
confused.
Madam Chidinma's high and defensive,
doesn't know what
Chief
she's saying.
Emeka's low and angry.
She seems pretty
She
clear to
couldn't
me
make
right
out the
now.
words, but the tone
She
was
has
clear.
Alzheimer's, Emeka.
Ngozi sat down beside
1
Mama,
minute she's
taking her hand gently.
Next she's calling for Papa
It's
who died
okay,
20 years
Mama.
ago.
I'm here.
Don't trust anything she says.
Mama looked at her, and
Chief
for a
Emeka
moment,
looked at
she
Ngozi
seemed
again.
completely present,
Stay
completely
with your
aware.
mother.
He's
I
a
need
good
to
man,
speak with
my
sister.
Emeka.
Privately.
Stubborn like his father,
They
but
left
good.
the room.
He'll help
Ngozi
you.
could hear their voices in
I
the
told him
hallway.
to come.
Madam Chidinma's high
I
and
sent
defensive,
word.
Chief Emeka's low.
What do you mean, Mama?
She couldn't make out the
But the
words,
fog returned
but the tone
again,
was
and
clear.
Mama went back to humming.
Ngozi sat down beside
20
Mama,
minutes
taking her
later,
hand
Chief
gently.
Emeka returned alone.
It's okay.
His
Mama.
face was set like stone.
I'm here.
He looked at
Mama
Ngozi
looked
and
at
said
her,
5 words
and
that
for a
would change her
moment, She
life.
seemed completely present,
Pack your things.
completely aware.
You're coming with
He's a
me.
good man, my Emeka.
Everything happened so fast that
Stubborn
Ngozi
like
felt
his
like
father,
she was
but
dreaming.
good.
Chief
He'll help
Emeka
you.
made a phone call, speaking
told him to
rapidly in
come.
Igbo to someone on the
I
other
sent word.
end. Within
What do you
30
mean,
minutes, a
Mama?
lawyer arrived at the house
But the
with
fog returned
papers.
again, and Mama went
Madam
back to
Chidinma
work.
was in her bedroom, the
20
door
minutes
locked,
later,
refusing
Chief
to come
Emeka
out.
returned alone.
What's
His face was
happening,
set like
sir?
stone.
Ngozi
Looked at
asked,
Ngozi and
bewildered.
said 5 words that would change
You're
your
leaving
life.
this house, Chief
Pack your
Emeka said
things.
firmly.
You're
You're coming
with
to
me.
work for me.
Everything
My
happened
children
so
need a
fast that
nanny,
Ngozi felt
someone
like
who
she was
actually
dreaming.
has a heart.
Chief Emeka
I'm
made
also
a
going to
phone
ensure you
call,
go
speaking
to
rapidly in
university.
Igbo to someone on the
But
other
first,
end.
I need you to do
Within
something for
30
me.
minutes, a lawyer arrived
Anything,
at the house
sir.
with papers.
I need you to pack my
Madam
mother's
Chidinma
things.
was in her bedroom. The
She's
door
coming
locked,
too.
refusing to come out.
She's moving into my house where I can
What's
make sure
happening,
she's properly
sir?
cared for.
Ngozi
But
asked,
sir,
bewildered.
I can't just
You're leaving this house.
Can't what?
Chief Emeka said firmly.
leave.
You're coming
Do you
to
have a
work for me.
contract with my sister?
My children need a nanny.
No, sir,
Someone who
but
actually has a heart.
then there's no
I'm
problem.
also going to ensure you go
I've
to
already
university.
spoken to her.
But
She
first,
understands
I need
that
you
if
to
she
do
tries
something
to
for
stop
me.
this, I'll make things very
Anything,
difficult
sir.
for her.
I need
Now
you to
please,
pack my mother's
help my
things.
mother pack.
She's coming
Rose
too.
appeared in the doorway,
She's
her
moving
eyes
into my
wide.
house where I can make sure she's
Ngozi,
properly
madam
cared
is
for.
vexing.
But
She say you
sir,
betrayed her.
I can't just.
I didn't betray
Can't
anyone, Ngozi said quietly. I
Do you
only
have a
told the
contract
truth.
with my sister?
The truth is a
No,
dangerous thing
sir.
in houses like this, Rose said sadly. But sometimes it's the only thing that can set people free. 2 hours later, Ngozi sat in the back of Chief Emeka's Mercedes, Mama beside her, holding her hand. The old woman was calm now, looking out the window at the streets of Lagos rolling past. Where are we going? Mama asked. Home, Mama, Chief Emeka said from the front seat. We are going home. Mama nodded, as if this made perfect sense. Good. I want to go home. Ngozi looked back once at the mansion disappearing behind them. In the window, she could see Rose waving goodbye, tears streaming down her face. Chief Emeka's house was in a koi, and it was more beautiful than Madam Chidinma's. But there was a warmth to it that the other house lacked. When they arrived, 3 children burst out of the front door, shouting with excitement. Daddy! Daddy! You're back! They were beautiful children, 2 girls and a boy, ranging in age from 9 to 14. They crowded around their father, talking over each other, until he laughed and held up his hands. Children, calm down. I have someone I want you to meet. This is Ngozi. She's going to be staying with us, helping to take care of you and your grandmother. The eldest girl, Chioma, looked at Ngozi curiously. Are you our new nanny? I suppose I am, Ngozi said, still feeling dizzy from the suddenness of everything. Cool. Our last nanny was terrible. She used to lock us in our rooms when she wanted to watch TV. Chief Emeka's face darkened. Did she really? It's okay, Daddy. She's gone now. They helped Mama into the house, and Ngozi was shown to a beautiful room with an actual bed, not a small hard bed, but a real one with a soft mattress and pillows and clean sheets that smelled like lavender. There was a wardrobe, a desk, and a window that looked out over a garden where birds sang in the trees. Is this really for me, sir? Ngozi asked. Yes. You'll sleep here. Momo's room is next door, so you'll be close by if she needs you at night. But Ngozi, I want you to understand something. You're not just a housemaid here. You're going to be part of this family. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept the position. The salary is 300,000 naira per month. You'll have 2 days off per week. You'll eat with the family, not with the leftovers. And in September, you'll start at the University of Lagos. I've already arranged your admission into the business administration program. Sir, this is too much. I can't. You can, and you will. Do you know how I knew to come to my sister's house today? No, sir. Chief Emeka pulled out his phone and showed her a message. It was from an unknown number, but the words made Ngozi's blood run cold. Your mother is dying slowly in your sister's house. Not from disease, but from neglect. If you don't come soon, you will regret it for the rest of your life. I know because I watch her every day. A friend. Who sent that? Ngozi whispered. I don't know. The number was untraceable. But whoever it was, they were right. I've been busy with work, traveling, building my business. I let years pass without visiting my mother. I trusted that my sister was taking care of her. But when I saw Mama today, how thin she's become, how sad, and then when I saw you, how you looked at her, how you touched her, how she responded to you. His voice broke. He cleared his throat and continued. I realized that a complete stranger had been showing my mother more love than her own children. That's something I can never take back. But I can make sure that from now on, she's surrounded by people who actually see her as a person. He looked at Ngozi seriously. You did that. Without anyone asking you to, without expectation of reward, you treated my mother with dignity. And for that, I can never repay you. But I can try. The first few weeks in Chief Emeka's house felt surreal. Ngozi kept waiting for something to go wrong, for someone to tell her it was all a mistake, that she had to go back to Madam Chidinma's. But nothing went wrong. The children loved her immediately. She helped them with their homework, listened to their stories about school, braided the girls' hair in the evenings. They called her Sister Ngozi, and the warmth in their voices made her chest ache with joy. But it was with Mama that the real miracle began to happen. In the new house, with proper care and medication, with sunshine streaming through her windows and fresh air from the garden, with Ngozi's constant attention and Chief Emeka's daily visits, Mama began to improve. The fog didn't lift completely, that was impossible, but it lifted more often. She had longer periods of lucidity. One evening, about a month after the move, Ngozi was sitting with Mama in the garden. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Mama was watching the birds hopping between the bushes when she suddenly turned to Ngozi and said, in a completely clear voice, "Thank you." Ngozi looked at her in surprise. "Mama, I know I don't always remember. Sometimes I don't even know where I am or who I am. But even in the fog, I always knew you. You were the one constant thing. The kind girl. The one who made me feel human again." Tears sprang to Ngozi's eyes. "Mama, you don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You gave me back my son. If you hadn't treated me with such love, if you had been like the others, he might never have known. He might have let years pass until it was too late. But you showed him what true kindness looks like. I was just doing what my parents taught me, Mama. They always said that elders deserve respect and love, no matter what. Your parents raised you well. Where are they now?" "They are resting, Mama. They went to be with God." Mama nodded slowly, understanding in her eyes. "Then they are watching you. And they are proud." That night, Chief Emeka called Ngozi to his study. It was a large room lined with books and photographs. On the wall was a picture of a younger mama, beautiful and vibrant, smiling at the camera. "Sit down, Ngozi," he said gently. "I want to talk to you about something important." Ngozi sat on the edge of the chair, nervous despite his kind tone. "I've been thinking a lot about fate," he began. "About why things happen the way they do. I've spent the last 20 years building companies, making money, gaining power. I thought that was what mattered. Success. Recognition. Wealth. But when I saw my mother in that room, looking so lost and abandoned, I realized I had failed at the most important thing. I had failed to honor the woman who gave me life. Not with money, I sent money every month to my sister. But with presence. With time. With love." He leaned forward, his hands clasped together. "And then I met you. A 22-year-old girl who had every reason to be bitter, who was being mistreated and underpaid, who had lost her own parents and was struggling to support her siblings. You had nothing. Yet you gave my mother everything that mattered." "Sir, Let me finish. I've made arrangements for your siblings. Chukwuma, Adiz, and Obayoma will all attend the best schools in your state, and I'll cover all their expenses until they graduate from university. Your aunt will receive a monthly stipend to make sure they are properly cared for. When you're ready, we can bring them to Lagos to visit." Ngozi couldn't speak. The tears came too fast. "As for you," he continued, "your university education starts in September as planned. But I want you to know something. You're not just an employee. You're not even just a nanny. You've become part of this family. My children look up to you. My mother loves you. And I respect you more than most people I've ever met. Sir, I don't deserve." "Yes, you do. You deserve every good thing that comes your way because you chose kindness when cruelty would have been easier. You chose patience when frustration would have been justified. You chose to see a confused old woman as someone still worthy of love when everyone else saw her as a burden." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where Mama and the children were visible in the fading light. "There's an Igbo proverb my mother used to tell me when I was young, Oni metera ogoranye no im ko onui igo, Oni metera agodi no im kochi yehuria enonya." Do you know what it means? No, sir. It means, whoever respects the rich will have money, but whoever honors the elderly will have God's favor. My mother told me that, but I forgot. I spent years chasing money and forgot to honor the one who taught me that lesson in the first place. He turned back to face her. "You didn't forget, Ngozi. Even when you had nothing, you remembered what mattered. And that's why this blessing has come to you. Not because of luck. Not because of coincidence. But because heaven rewards those who treat its elders with dignity." 6 months later, Ngozi stood at the gate of the University of Lagos, wearing a new backpack filled with textbooks and supplies. She was starting her first day as a business administration student. Chief Emeka had driven her personally, refusing to let a driver take her. "First days are important," he'd said. "Someone should be here to share it with you." Now, as she looked at the sprawling campus, Ngozi felt a mix of excitement and terror. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, but never believed it would actually happen. "Scared?" Chief Emeka asked. "Terrified, sir." "Good. That means you understand how important this is. But remember, you belong here just as much as anyone else. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Before she could respond, her phone rang. It was Chukwuma, calling from their village. Sister. My teacher said I'm going to represent the school in the state mathematics competition." "That's wonderful. I knew you were brilliant." "It's because of you, sister. If you weren't." His voice broke. He was only 13, but he understood exactly how close they had come to a very different life. "Don't cry, Chukwuma. Just study hard and make us proud. And take care of Adiz and Obayoma, okay? I'll come visit during the holidays." After she hung up, Chief Emeka was watching her with a small smile. Your brother sounds like a smart boy. He is. They all are. I just wish my parents could see them now. They can, he said simply. I believe that. And I believe they are proud. As Ngozi walked through the university gates, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a village in Abia State to a cruel household in Lagos. From sleeping on a narrow bed in a servant's quarters to having her own beautiful room. From being treated like she was invisible to being valued as family. But most of all, she thought about Mama. Sweet, confused Mama, who had somehow, in her fog, seen Ngozi's heart and found a way to save her. Because Ngozi now knew the truth. That message Chief Emeka had received, the one that brought him to his sister's house, hadn't come from a stranger. It had come from Mama. One evening, after one of her lucid periods, Mama had confessed. I remember sending it, she'd said. I don't remember everything, but I remember that day. I was clear-headed, more than I had been in months. I found your sister's phone on the table, and I sent the message to my son. I didn't know if he would come. But I had to try. For you. For me, Mama. For you. Because you treated me like I still mattered. Because you gave me back my humanity. I couldn't let you suffer in that house any longer. Heaven sent you to me, child. But I had to do my part. I had to save you, too. Now, as Ngozi entered her first classroom and took a seat among students her own age, she understood something profound. Kindness is never wasted. Even when it seems like no one sees it, even when it seems like nothing is changing, kindness is always working in the background, planting seeds that will one day bear fruit. She had given Mama her time, her patience, her stories, her songs. And in return, Mama had given her back her future. Ngozi stood on the stage of the University of Lagos graduation hall, wearing her cap and gown, holding her degree in business administration. She had graduated with first-class honors, and her thesis on ethical business practices in Nigerian companies had won an award. In the audience, Chief Emeka sat with his 3 children, all of them cheering loudly. Beside them, in a wheelchair but smiling widely, was Mama. She was frailer now, the Alzheimer slowly taking more of her memory. But she was there, and she was happy. After the ceremony, as Ngozi descended the stage, Mama reached out and took her hand. I'm proud of you, she said, the words clear and true. Thank you, Mama. I don't remember much anymore, Mama continued, but I will never forget you. Even if I lose everything else, I will remember the girl with kind eyes. Ngozi knelt beside the wheelchair and rested her head on Mama's lap, just as she had done so many times in that sad blue room all those years ago. But this time, there were no tears. Only gratitude. Chief Emeka had already offered her a position in his company as a junior manager, with a generous salary. Chokuma had been accepted into the University of Nigeria on a full scholarship to study engineering. Adiz wanted to be a doctor. Little Obioma, now 13, talked about becoming a lawyer. Their lives had been transformed, not through luck or chance, but through a chain of kindness that started with a simple choice, to treat an old woman with dignity. That evening, at the celebration dinner in Chief Emeka's house, he stood to give a toast. The entire household was there, the children, Mama, even Rose, who had left Madam Chidinma's household and now worked happily as Chief Emeka's head cook. I want to say something, Chief Emeka began, raising his glass. 4 years ago, I almost lost my mother without ever knowing it. I was too busy, too distracted, too focused on things that didn't matter. But God sent someone to our family who reminded us what truly matters. He looked at Ngozi. Ngozi, you came into my mother's life with nothing except a kind heart. You could have been bitter about your situation. You could have done the minimum required and nothing more. But you chose to give love where it wasn't demanded. You chose to see value where others saw burden. And in doing so, you saved not just my mother, but all of us. He raised his glass higher. To Ngozi. May her kindness always be remembered. May her example inspire us all. And may she know that what she did for my mother will never be forgotten. Everyone raised their glasses. To Ngozi. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Ngozi sat in the garden under the stars. She thought about her parents, buried under the Eudora tree back in the village. She imagined them looking down at her, smiling. "Mommy, Daddy," she whispered to the night sky, "I did what you taught me. I chose kindness. And it saved me." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine. And somewhere in that wind, Ngozi felt her parents' presence, felt their pride, felt their love. She had started as a poor orphan with nothing but her character. She had been mistreated, underpaid, forgotten by the world. But she had never forgotten herself. She had never forgotten the lessons of respect, dignity, and love that her parents had planted in her heart. And in the end, those lessons had bloomed into a future more beautiful than she could have ever imagined. The old Igbo people say, "Aichi oma emia modu, ono legochi gikuro." What good you do for others will return to you. Ngozi learned this truth in the hardest way possible. She learned it through hunger, through cruelty, through loneliness. But she never let those hardships poison her heart. And when the universe saw a pure heart in a broken situation, it conspired to lift her up. Not because she demanded it. Not because she expected it. But because she deserved it. Honor given to the elderly is never wasted. Love poured out in secret is never lost. Kindness offered without expectation of return will always find its way back to the giver, multiplied 100-fold. This is not just a story about a housemaid and an old woman. It is a story about what happens when we choose to be human in a world that often rewards cruelty. It is a reminder that the smallest act of love can change destinies. And it is a promise that heaven is always watching, always keeping account, and always ready to reward those who treat its most vulnerable children with the dignity they deserve.